Hello, today I'm going to talk about improving your life, how to improve your life, making your life better, tips for better living, stuff like that basically. This is Alphatucana. I'm Martin Thompson, and on this channel I do vlogs like this, I do sightseeing videos, and I do gameplay videos. That's the other one. That's it. So, better living. The way I'm going to do this, I've kind of divided it up into 4 areas. And I have to say, I'm no expert in having a great life, okay? However, I've thought about it a lot, and oh, the sun's coming out. I'm getting blasted here. I've thought about it a lot, and over the years, indeed, and have found 4 areas which I think are crucial to actually developing a better life overall. And I've read lots of books, I've looked at loads of videos, and in the old days I had self-improvement tape programs and so on, and they're kind of helpful, but in the end I think you need to distill it down to a few specific things which are appropriate for you, and it seems there are some general areas. I'm going to divide it into 4. Integrity and self-esteem, the mind and body, money and success, and living with heart, or intuitive living if you like. I'm going to do them in not that order. I'm going to start with integrity and self-esteem. Now, I've done a video recently about how to develop your self-esteem and your confidence, basically, and I think maybe I'll do videos on these other areas after today and expand on a bit, but the basic idea is to get anywhere, really, you need to have some kind of confidence in yourself, some measure of good judgment about yourself, about whether you're a decent person, you have a right to be here, you have a right to expect to be loved, or at least you're lovable, basically, whether anyone's around who notices it or not. Okay, and if your self-esteem is bad, your motivation is bad, your life experience is unhappy, it's something to be worked on, and there are practical things you can do generally, of course, to improve it. In fact, strangely enough, it is kind of a practical skill. So first of all, you can look around your environment and just try and make it better for yourself bit by bit. Tidying up, getting rid of clutter and having it sort of nicely organised. It's a judgment of yourself made emotionally. You know whether you're living up to your standards or not, really. And I suppose you can watch the other video for a full rundown of it. And however you get to be of lowish self-esteem, most people could develop more. There are some people who have overinflated egos, which is not the same thing. But there are basically practical things. In summary, what you do to improve your self-esteem is do things that you can be pleased with yourself for doing, basically. That's it in a nutshell. But improving your general environment and so on, all these little things help, because they are like treats for yourself. They're showing yourself that you care about yourself, which is rather strange that you'd have to do such things, but we are rather strange creatures, and you do need to. You can watch my other video for details on that. Other ways you can help yourself are by avoiding negative people, avoiding abusive people, avoiding users, people who just use you basically. It's a kind of self-esteem failure that you're not kicking these people to the curb in the first place. So as you develop your self-esteem, you'll find it easier to drop unsavoury people from your acquaintances, because you will not need their approval, and trust me, you'll never get it. So get rid of them, not literally, but out of your life. Okay, not making any dodgy recommendations here. And by the same token, don't waste too much time trying to please other people. Don't worry too much about upsetting other people by your choices. It's your life. You do what you think is right for you, right or wrong. Yes, you're not going to become a doctor just because your mother says so, right? You're going to become an astronaut, an artist, I don't know, a down and out. Doesn't matter. You do what you want, and it's better for your life in the long run. If you go down the wrong path, it actually is okay. There are ways the path will fork later on for you, but try and get it right in the first place, basically. I'm going to be talking a bit more about your path in the section on living with heart, or living according to your intuition. But for now, just think of it as doing what's right for you. Basically, you can feel when something isn't right. And obviously when you're young, it's very hard to know what you might want. Some people seem to be born knowing what they want to do, but a lot of people, myself included, have no idea, really. If we did know at one time, we've lost it, forgotten it, it's gone. The path is closed. It's a different way now. But there you go. But don't worry about upsetting people by your choices. That's their problem, not yours. It's your life. They've got to sort out their life. They shouldn't be living their life through your choices. Help them to make their own choices, if you like, if you must. And your integrity is also very important in this, because in a way it's kind of dishonest to be going against what you feel is the right path for you, or going down some path which you know you're going to hate, or which isn't really yours. Maybe you've got little choice, you don't know what else to do, so you might as well go on with it. Well, okay, fine, but when you see the signs for the fork in the road, you can be ready to take it, okay, and not worry too much about it either. But there are times when you're given the choice of doing things which feel wrong in a different way, like it feels like there's something not quite right here, like they're criminally wrong, or something like that, if you see what I mean. They are literally the wrong thing to do. In those cases, you have to speak up, or drop it. I'm not interested in this. I don't want to know. It doesn't feel right to me. I'm not going to do it. And it doesn't matter, again, what people say, how much they criticise you. Let them stew in the mess of their own making. Don't join in. You can be proud of yourself for making a strong choice. That's really the essence of improving your life through integrity and self-esteem. In a nutshell, really. I'm not going to say too much about it because, as I say, I've done a video on self-esteem anyway, and confidence, so you can look at that. On integrity, it really is a matter of doing what's right, I mean, in a way, it's true to say that most of the world's problems actually stem from immoral behaviour. Somebody somewhere is being unethical, immoral, and we have problems all over the place. Overly selfish, all of this sort of thing. So building up your integrity is not just helping yourself, it is actually, in a little way, and who knows what in the long run, but it is helping the whole world a bit. And when you look at the big problems in the world in the news, you can trace pretty much all of it back to bad behaviour somewhere. Okay, to people being, well, grossly selfish, lustful, whatever the 7 deadly sins were, right? All of that, you can trace it back essentially. Most of the world's problems can be traced back to that sort of behaviour in one or more people, and a lot of problems in people's lives are actually caused by them not sticking with their integrity and their honesty, if you like, by them not thinking in a moral sense. I'm not being religious about this. I'm not a religious person as such. I suppose I describe myself as spiritual rather than religious, but I don't even like that term very much. But just in a purely practical sense, bad behaviour causes chaos and trouble and holds civilization back. Civilization grows from cooperation and the sharing of skills and abilities and resources, and people helping each other generally. And we all have these parasitic urges in us to grab a bit extra for ourselves, but really it's very much the source of most of the world's problems. Not all of them. Some are natural phenomena, things of this sort, but the man-made sort are largely that. So I'll go on with the mind and the body. From the point of view of the body, I think we all know that we need to do enough exercise. We need to eat healthy food, and we need to get enough sleep. If this was the night time, right, I might be woken up by that. But anyway, so why don't we do it? Lack of self-discipline is one area. So I'm not going to belabour the point really, but I will talk about sleep a bit, because it's very, very common, especially in the industrialised West, and in parts of the world where people are working long hours, for people not to be getting enough sleep for their minds to fully recover overnight. And you become a drone, and you lose your way in life because you need a sharp brain to get by, actually. And a 5% sleep deficit, according to sleep research by William C. Dement, a 5% sleep deficit leads to approximately a 20% reduction in mental efficiency. So make sure you're getting enough sleep. Now the average people say you should have is about 8 hours, but that actually is nonsense. It varies from individual to individual. Teenagers probably need about 10 hours, maybe 9. Say up to the age of about 25, something like that. Between 25 and 40, probably you are in the 8-hour region, and above that maybe 7 hours, and going into the 70s or so maybe you can make do with 6 hours. It varies from individual to individual. It tends to be less sleep as you get older, but when you're in your mainstream of life, you need to make sure and apply self-discipline to go to bed on time. If you wake up to an alarm instead of waking up because you've had enough sleep, then it means you haven't had enough sleep if you need an alarm to wake you up. So set an alarm for when you should go to bed. Just a tip, just an idea, okay? So if you wake up and you haven't had enough sleep, then set the alarm 15 minutes earlier, half an hour earlier, each day for your going to bed time, until you find that time when you are actually getting enough sleep and you wake up refreshed. This is hard to do, I know, especially if you've got, I don't know, children or something, right, keeping you awake, babies. Well, you have to make do, okay. But for as far as you've got it under your control, take control. And with food, it can be very tough to eat healthily. But we all know what healthy food is and what it isn't. Okay, you know, massive bags of chips and super burgers and stuff are not that healthy. They're probably not the worst food around, but they're not that great. Okay, so try and generate a habit of making some healthy foods, some healthy meals every week. Okay, you can start off small and gradually increase it over a year or two. Okay, but do it. Get those vitamins in, right, and you'll start to feel better just because you've actually got some proper nutrition. Never mind anything else. Your self-esteem will improve too, for the reason that you're actually doing something that you know is good for you. You don't have to stuff yourself full of carbohydrates and rubbish. Just salads, vegetables, fruit. Not too much of anything, just some. Okay, and cut down on the rubbish, which you know is rubbish. Okay, just use your integrity and stick by what you know to be true. The fizzy drink is full of God knows what chemicals. How is that going to be good for you? Even the fruit juice is full of far too much sugar. You should actually eat the fruit, not juiced. The less processed your food is, generally the better. This varies a bit. I mean, some things are better cooked because the vitamins become more available to you, even though some are destroyed in the process of cooking. But I think we all know what is good and healthy food and what isn't. There's too much propaganda in this culture about low-fat foods being good for you, and then you're fed lots of high carbohydrate foods instead. And the science actually shows that carbohydrates are quite harmful in quantity, and you should be eating a lowish carb diet. I mean, not zero carb, but on any occasion really. Just some carbs are necessary. Vitamins and stuff are in them, but keep the sugars down a lot. Exercise, well, even just going for walks is good for you, as you know, right? It varies from person to person depending on your body and what you can do, but it's what I have difficulty with, I must say, finding time for exercise and stuff. I've got so many other things to do, but it is important, and I go for a walk at least every day, pretty much every day actually, when I think about it. So for about an hour, which is not bad. So that's the body. The mind, well, by the mind I'm talking about the verbal mind, your inner speech that we all seem to hear babbling on at us constantly, telling us, oh, I should have done this, oh, I have to do that, oh, I'm no good, you know, all that stuff. Oh, I've been abandoned, oh, I'm terrible, why am I so stupid? Whatever it is your inner voice is saying to you, it's typically garbage of that sort, okay, when you actually stop and listen to it. Or fantasizing about rubbish, things you've been fantasizing about for years even. This dialogue, the mind, I mean, depending on which conspiracy theorist you listen to, it varies, but it all kind of boils down to the idea that the mind is a tool that predators can use to manipulate you, or control you. And if you want to escape that matrix as best as is possible in this life, you need to control the mind and not be controlled by it. So that means that you need to be listening to your thoughts and evaluating whether they are beneficial to you or not. And if, when you think about what you're thinking about, from moment to moment, from time to time even, just set a little beep on your watch to go off every 10 minutes, say, what was I thinking about just then? It may help you. Okay, on your phone, if necessary. People have watches. In the old days, these days they have mobiles, I know. So set a little beeper off to go off at random times, or every now and then. And just, what was I thinking about? Was it garbage? Oh yeah. Right? Just so you become aware of it. And by becoming aware of it, you can gradually notice it without the beeps, and you will then be able to say to yourself, this kind of thought isn't really getting me anywhere. It's not useful. Let's just leave that. Maybe think about something else. You don't have to do it in an aggressive way. Oh no, why am I thinking this rubbish again? Because that's exactly the sort of rubbish you're trying to get rid of, actually. And if you try and make something which you're trying to achieve unpleasant, oh no, that's an unpleasant feeling, right? You will naturally avoid doing it. It's bad to beat yourself up for poor performance, okay, because it encourages poor performance. Funnily enough, Human Psychology 101. Okay, so you do it in a nice way to yourself. That, okay, I'm thinking that stuff, it's not really much use. Just be aware of it. Your mind quite quickly, if you're persistent with it, your mind will quite quickly adapt to the new system, to what you're actually after, and start giving you more productive thoughts, more positive thoughts. If you lapse, if you stop paying attention, it will gradually go back to the old habits, because old habits die hard. So you just need to keep being aware. One of the best ways, one of the age-old ways of getting in control of your mind is through meditation. I'd recommend starting with mindfulness of breathing meditation. I've got a video which I've done a while ago with a guided meditation, so you could try it. Okay, but there are lots on the internet. Or you can look at the books of Jon Kabat-Zinn about meditation and mindfulness. I might stick a link or two up. Or you can also look at the books of Don Miguel Ruiz about the voice of knowledge, and some of his other books, but that one in particular about the voice in your mind, in your head, right? People don't realise, most people have no clue just how much garbage their minds churn through, actually. And through a technique like meditation, you can quieten it, and quieten it, and quieten it, and then you can listen to who you really are, which is who is underneath. You are the one paying attention, not the one jabbering away. It's almost as if this mind is an alien creature, a little devil sitting inside you, wasting your life away with garbage when you could be thinking something constructive. So learn to accept helpful thoughts and just let go of the unhelpful ones. Another thing with the mind, and in fact a lot of this process, like the exercise and so on, is self-discipline. It's a skill. it can be developed in little ways. You can use self-discipline to get yourself to eat well, to keep your place reasonably tidy, to exercise a bit, and so on. And you need self-discipline if you are to be any sort of financial success as well. Or in fact, to achieve success in pretty much any field, you need self-discipline. Self-discipline is the #1 secret of achievement and happiness. So you can start it. It's a muscle, you develop it. It's a mental muscle, but you develop it just by using it a bit. If you're living like a slob now, live like slightly less of a slob. And after a month of living slightly less of a slob, live like slightly less of a slob for another month, and gradually improve it, bit by bit, without bankrupting yourself or anything of the sort, okay? And you will need this self-discipline later when you are going to be more successful, when opportunities come your way. So prepare, get it ready, okay? And there's another ancient that was promoted by Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher. There's another one, courage, which is part of your integrity, your strength to speak up. You can't stand by your values without it. So that's why you need to develop it as well. And to say no to things which are not appropriate for you. And never mind upsetting people about it. Their problem. Let them rant. Now, the third section is living with heart, as the New Agers say. I don't like the metaphor. For me, I've got a science background. The heart is a flipping pump, okay? It may have a few other functions because it's got quite a complex nervous system associated with it, but still, you know, the metaphor doesn't work for me. So I think of it as listening to your intuition, and more, actually. It's also about connecting with people. This is like the area which I'm not very good at. I'm trying with it. I'm not much good with money either. So, in fact, with all of these areas, they've been a bit of a struggle and have taken years of development and thinking about it and trying to work a way out around it, and what the heck. Okay, as I said at the beginning, I'm kind of distilling what I think I've picked up. And so living with heart, as the New Agers say, or living with according to your intuition, it's all about following your path, or creating your path even, and connecting with people, getting some sort of a social life together. And that's something I've always kind of treated as a lowish priority, connecting with people. But it is actually important. As I've mentioned earlier, all of human society is working and based on people actually helping each other and working together. I have skill A, you have skill B. Together we can produce something which neither of us can produce on our own. So it's in our selfish best interests to work together and to be friends and so on. So if you're somebody who doesn't have much, if anything, of a social life, and you've puzzled, how the heck can I do this? I don't even like going out. I don't want to meet people because it makes me feel bad. I go to some event, I don't make any friends, I come home and nothing's happened. Nobody spoke to me, it was rotten. It's because you're doing it wrong. Okay. To develop a social life, you need to realise how people work together. People become friends Not because they brag in the same way on Facebook about how wonderful their stupid lives are. Okay. No. People become friends because they have shared experiences. And that's basically it. And as long as their experiences are being shared, they remain friends. When one person gets married and moves away and starts having a different life, the friendship fades away. Friendship has a life cycle. We kind of hope that they'll last forever, but in practice most of them don't. Especially in the fast-changing modern world. In the old days, probably our wishes were mostly true, except that in the old days, a lot of people would die from diseases and things of this sort. War, which still happens, of course. So even there, people would disappear and you'd have a constant turnover, but for different reasons. Now people move away, which never used to happen, or hardly used to happen at all. And so you lose touch because their lives are different. Why are they going to be bothered? People think about themselves. So when you go along to, or are choosing things to go to, don't worry about meeting people. Go there because the event is going to be useful to you, or it's something you like and will enjoy for itself. And go along and deal with the event. And if there's things you can attend regularly because you like them or because they're useful to you, do that. And then you will develop over time the shared experiences that leads to these associations between people that we call friendships. It won't happen quickly or right away normally. It happens around events, around things, objects of interest. So do it that way. If you go there to some, I don't know, whatever it might be, some event in a pub or something, I don't know, with the aim of picking up girls or something, you're going to stand out like a sore thumb and everybody's going to avoid you. We're sensitive to this sort of thing, humans. We know that somebody's got the wrong reasons in mind. Often anyway. So, although it's not in a sense a wrong reason, it's wrong for the event. Treat it innocently. Just go for the event. Do that. Go home. Don't expect anything more, because it's not going to happen. Just socialise with the people who are there, because fine, but you're going there for whatever it is. So concentrate on that, and gradually, in a slower way, rather than grabbing onto someone and saying, right, I'm going to be your friend. Well, no. Okay. And when you do have friends, I mean, people stay friends because of the shared experiences and because they meet each other's needs in some way as well, for the type of people they want to associate with. If it's a partner, like a husband or wife or something, you meet each other's needs, and if you don't, it won't last, typically. Or if it does, it won't be as good as it could be. So be aware of what you have to do, but go about it the right way. It's about the common activity first, especially in the early stages. Also, when it comes to meeting people, it's no good if, because you are not liking to go out, say, you're sitting at home all the time, not going out. You do have to do something. And this is true both for meeting people and for financial opportunities and other opportunities too. Essentially, no one is coming to rescue you. There may be this knight in shining armour out there somewhere looking for his princess, but he's not coming to get you. He's not going to come. You must be living your life. Don't wait. Don't wait around. You must be living your life. Not sitting at home being miserable. If you don't have a life, what will you talk about? You've got to have some common experiences with people. However slowly, find things which are useful to you or interesting to you and do them with other people at clubs. In London you can go to meetup.com, and it probably exists in other cities too. Outside the towns, the local pub or whatever, you know, in the countryside, things like that. Just a notice board or something like that. There'll be something. I mean, the culture varies a lot from place to place, but that's the basics idea for meeting people and getting connected. And when you're dealing with people, this ties into your self-esteem as well. I said that we feel good by doing good things. We do feel what we are giving to other people, to society. That's what makes us feel good. So bear that in mind. It's not about getting, it's about giving. And then you are getting at the same time. It's kind of strange, but I think that's the way it works. And I've mentioned a few times about finding your path or travelling along your path, as if there is such a thing as a path specifically for you. I mean, some people will say our life is planned and so on. Well, we don't know about that, right? Objectively, who knows? One thing we do know is that all paths lead nowhere. Eventually you die. Eventually you will be forgotten about entirely. Nobody will know that you ever lived, that you did anything great or little or anything. All paths lead nowhere. So in a sense it doesn't matter which path you choose, but you will feel better if you choose a positive path, because that's human nature. There are some psychopaths who sadly have to choose horrible paths. We deal with them with prison and more if necessary. But for normal people, we feel better if we're following a positive path of some sort. That doesn't mean raising some massive ambition and driving for it for most people. It means following your intuition. When you've got some choices of what to do, you kind of know which one you're drawn towards, usually. Not always, but usually. When you get that, when your mind is silent and you just know what is the right thing, that's what you do. That's when your opportunities can come up more easily as well, because it's likely to be in line with your native talents and with even with things you've learned as well. And that may be totally different from your background, because we seem to be born into random locations and situations, at least from our perspective. But you can be free to choose any path, because they all end up nowhere. There are amazing, famous people from history. You can still read about some of the Romans and the Greeks in their classics, some amazing achievers there. Incredible people. Did a great deal for society, and we're still living with the ramifications of them today. And there are others who have been completely forgotten. Nobody knows that they ever lived, and that's how it will be for you and for me. We'll make our 15 minutes of fame, as Andy Warhol put it. We'll live our 15 minutes of fame in our current lives, and it'll be gone. Right. We may do a kind deed here or there. Good, but goodbye. Even the whole earth itself will be forgotten about one day. Nothing lasts forever. Even the universe, apparently, is likely to end at some point. Right. So, all paths are free of any sort of burden. There's one thing you can use. I've spoken about paranormal phenomena in a recent video, and you can use synchronicity to help you choose a path sometimes. I find when I'm on what I feel is my right path, I'm also fairly frequently getting synchronicities. A synchronicity is a kind of a meaningful coincidence. It's something which objectively looks like pure chance, and yet it happens when you're thinking about something. Okay, and you get some event which relates to it, which has nothing to do with you, and yet it matches, and you think, "Ooh, strange." Obviously, objectively, some of these things, most perhaps, are sheer coincidence, and we're just being superstitious, paying attention to it. But there's actually quite a lot of good scientific evidence from the parapsychologists that there is more to it than that. And actually even the arch skeptics in science say no, it's all rubbish and nonsense. But they obviously haven't looked actually at the evidence, which is quite good, 1,000,000 to 1 odds and things like that. And actually even the evidence from hard science kind of allows for it. If you look at Alan Aspect's experiments on the Bell inequality back in the 80s, which show conclusively that particles in quantum mechanics, particles that are widely separated in space, are still entangled and related to each other, no matter how far apart they are. It kind of shows that we are all one in some sort of sense, which science hasn't come to grips with yet, conventional science. But it is there. And it seems to me that if evolution over the last 15 billion years could have produced minds and bodies that can take advantage of these effects, it would have done so, because there are obvious advantages, evolutionarily speaking, survival-wise, to having this kind of extra edge. There are superb random number generated tests with people, large numbers of trials, large numbers of repetitions of the phenomena in different experiments in different laboratories, showing that a man can influence the random number generators to the tune of about 1%, 1 in 100 rolls extra in their favour. And women slightly lower, about 80%, a 0.8% chance. But when a man and a woman work together, if they are emotionally bonded, like a married couple or something like that, they get a 4% bonus on the random number generator, which is quite amazing. And this is being shown consistently, many times, with odds of well over 1,000,000 to 1 against it being due to chance. So there is something which science hasn't come to grips with, and for skeptics to say, oh, it's all lies and rubbish and fraud, as they used to say about other things, indeed, it's an emotional argument and scientifically not valid. The science is there. I think when you get odds like that, you need to take them seriously. We don't know how to harness it, but it's arrogant to suppose that science is complete and knows everything. We know that it doesn't. And we know there are anomalous results. And sheer logic tells you that if your science is incomplete, it will be faced with anomalous results, because that's what incompleteness means. There are things which don't fit the current paradigm. There must be, because science isn't complete. That must be so. And these quantum phenomena or paranormal phenomena are what we're coming up against at the moment, and sometime in the 21st century we will find some new way of thinking about it which starts to make sense to us. In the meantime, just use it and see for yourself. Honestly, you will. If you start to look for synchronicities, strange coincidences that mean something to you, like the classic one, you're thinking about somebody and they phone you up, okay, this sort of thing. That may be precognition, whatever. Or you're thinking about buying a car, should I get a new car, and suddenly there's a car accident outside on the street outside. You're just like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't, okay? Is it luck, is it coincidence? It seems to me it happens more than would be expected by chance. Certainly it would be expected by chance, but some of these things happen more than that. I'm pretty sure the maths against these odds of these things is very, very long odds. Like my precognitive dreams, which I mentioned in a previous video, which were photographically accurate, spot on. The odds against that are trillions to one, really. The odds of you dreaming about the future are very high, because we dream about the past and the future all the time, probably. But the odds of getting it absolutely spot on accurate about something which was some considerable weeks ahead and unanticipated are trillions to one against. And I'm not the only one that's had that, and I would be if those were actually the odds. So there's something going on, just use it, okay? Don't worry about what it means, because science hasn't figured it out yet. Now, what I mentioned earlier about meditation and quietening your mind and getting helps with all this, and getting in control of your mind helps with all this, because to listen to how you feel about something, what's your right path, it's best when you're not chattering. Okay. So pay attention to what feels right, and don't be too limited by your current plans, because your current plans may be on a different branch of the path. You may need to switch a bit all the time. So the final part of this is money and success. The practical side of it. How do I get rich quick? I wish I knew. Okay. Now, there are some practical steps, in fact, but I would urge you not to spend too much time listening to the success gurus. They're worth listening to a bit, because sometimes they have good ideas. I quite like the Rich Dad videos, way of looking at things like that. Tony Robbins is quite interesting. But you can go on and on and on, and it becomes a distraction. It starts to prevent you from doing stuff rather than helping you. Furthermore, the vast majority of these successful people have been successful not because of what they've done, but because of luck meeting preparedness. They were in the right place at the right time with the right skills, in contact with the right other people. And they had the right confidence, and so on. And then luck happened, the opportunity happened, and they recognised it and took it. That's more what it's about than any special skills they have. They'll tell you you need this, you've got to get up and go and all this. Well, fine, that's kind of what they think worked for them. You should be listening actually to less successful people who are actually meeting the problems directly, because the successful people in many cases don't really know what they've done, or they forget conveniently about the luck that they had. Tony Robbins had a fair bit of money to start with, Donald Trump, 300 million inherited. Oh well, I could run a business if I had that kind of money. Okay. Rich dad had his rich dad, presumably, although I suspect that's a story. I don't know. So take it with a pinch of salt. Some of their advice, yes, that's okay, but don't waste too much time getting your mind in order. Start moving. You do need to get your mind in order, so do the meditation and train it, but get moving. Follow a path. Okay. Preparedness basically means getting certain steps ready, which I'll check. 1. Savings and investments. It doesn't matter how poor you are, try and save even pennies. It does add up. Okay. You need self-discipline for this, so be working on that, like I told you. You need people, so you need to work on your social life and your networking. Even though when you try to go on your own path, a lot of these people will block you or resent it or tell you you're stupid or you're wrong, remember you've also been learning not to worry about upsetting people. The wrong people will drop out. Okay. Cut them away. Drop them out deliberately if necessary. The people you need to be with will change from time to time, so keep up with it. Knowledge. I didn't mention this earlier, but it's about training your mind. You do need to know about things. It's no good being an airhead. Okay. The mind is a tool that can be used against you by psychopaths, sociopaths, David Icke's reptiles, or whoever, right? Okay. But as I said, you've got to train it on helpful thoughts. You also have to give it information. And honestly, science and philosophy are probably the most important things. Now, if you find these subjects terrible, find subjects that work for you. But always be learning something. Always be learning something new. Read fiction, read non-fiction, whatever works. But keep the information flowing. You never know what you might need to know, and there is an enormous amount of stuff to know in the world. Read any kind of stuff, watch any kind of videos, whatever you like. As I say, take the conspiracy theorist ones and the success guru ones with a pinch of salt. Obviously, like the conspiracy theorists, a lot of the stuff they're saying sounds very strange, but some at least of it must be true, or there wouldn't be any traction in what they say. And some of it is probably complete nonsense. Okay, clearly. And the same for smart-ass scientists. They know a lot of what they're talking about, but when they start getting dogmatic and adamant, you know that there's something wrong here, that they're reaching the boundaries of knowledge. Just listen to that intuition. Yep. You need, so savings, investments, people or networking, knowledge, self-esteem. You must have confidence enough to be able to pursue your path, and courage of your convictions, and general courage, and integrity, and self-discipline. And as for financial success, think about what you would need to achieve financial independence. I mean, that's the kind of goal, is financial independence. Financial independence is how much money you would need so that you would never have to work again. Now, that may be a lump sum or it may be an income. What I suggest is you don't go thinking, right, what I need is a yacht, a villa in every resort, and an endless supply of hookers and drugs. Okay. Because, okay, and $100 million. Because fine, okay, that might be an interesting goal, but it's kind of way out there. Get there step by step if you must. And instantly, if you do make that goal and you achieve it and get all the hookers and drugs you want, you'll be dead within like a month or two, okay? So think about that. Your path goes to nowhere in the end. Remember that. Okay. Instead, think about the minimum financial independence goal. What is the minimum you need, either to have as a lump sum or to be getting as an income from somewhere, such as savings and investments or things that don't feel like work, like my YouTube channel doesn't feel like work to me. Something you can do that you like, that you're interested in, or anyway, that will give you income that is enough to cover your basic needs, all of them, and means you don't need an income from work or from the government or any other source, any source that you would be dependent upon. So for, like, if you're quite old and retired and you own your own property, you don't need to pay rent at least, so that knocks, in England that knocks about £1,000 off your monthly requirement, okay? So you might need a couple of thousand a month, maybe something like that, maximum, minimum. Even 1,000 a month you can probably get by with it in some households, or less, especially if you're a retiree or something. If you're younger, you probably need more because you've got to save up for property or something if you're going to live in this country. If you're going to live in a cheap place, well, fine. But try and work out, there are different ways of achieving it, because if you want to be financially independent in London, it's a lot more expensive than being financially independent in Sicily or Greece or somewhere, right? So bear that in mind. And just look at the minimum target and start with that in mind. And don't watch too many gurus, don't waste your life. Okay, start doing things. Actually do them. Fail. Many times, failure is good. Failure is what we learn from. It's a pain. In artificial life, we go to school and we learn some lessons and we take the exam. In real life, we take the exam and then we learn the lessons. It's bad, okay? But at least when things are going all horribly wrong, we can know that there are lessons to be learned. And it might take us a year or two to integrate the knowledge and figure it out, and it's hard in the meantime, but we do get there. Okay, well, there we go. Integrity and self-esteem, the mind and body, following your intuition, and money and success. I think I've covered all the ground. Is there anything important I've missed out? Do you have any useful ideas? Let me know. Leave comments. Is there anything you disagree with? Let me know. You might disagree with my take on paranormal phenomena, but still the idea of following your intuition and just this strange knowledge we have about things, I think we've all experienced that to some degree. You just know sometimes, even, you know, our evolutionary brain is old enough to pick up on subtle clues sometimes. But anyway, however it works, it works. Well, you know, the usual like, subscribe and all that business. And I'm interested to hear your comments. So I'll leave some links below to the books I mentioned. And bye for now.